You're listening to Chameleon Church. Biblical Antidotes for the Modern Man. With your host, Allan Aguirre.
Good morning, Allan Aguirre with the Chameleon Church Show. I almost said something else. Hey, it's the Chameleon Church Show for Tuesday, March 23rd. I'm your host, Allan Aguirre, coming live and direct to you from northern Utah on the Wasatch Back. You're watching Chameleon Church here on the Lamb Radio Video Network. This is our 3-year anniversary week, I believe. Yeah, it's this week, because next week is pretty much the end of it. So happy birthday to the Chameleon Church Show. We are 3 years old, and can't believe we've done this consistently every Tuesday morning for 3 years. Wow. Yeah. So thank you for continuing to join us and to, put up with us and tolerate us and all those groovy things. Be sure to, if you're on YouTube, on literally YouTube, be sure to like, hit that bell, and subscribe. Subscribe and hit that bell and leave a comment for all the for the Skynet robotic, they call them algorithms. And if you're on Facebook on Lamp Network, be sure to like and follow. And then if you're on the Chameleon Church Facebook, be sure to like and follow, leave a comment, subscribe, all that groovy stuff, so that you'll know when we go live. Thank you. And also sharing helps. That can grow the numbers. Growing numbers is always a good thing. Got to sell books. Baby needs diapers. Yeah, you know what I mean. What else? So be sure to like and share. If every single one of you shared this, we could probably gain another 50% when it comes to numbers. Yeah, because, you apparently think we have something worthwhile to say. Maybe somebody else does too. Here's our, what do we call them? Elusive? What do we call you guys? Esteemed co-hosts, Darryl Weinberg and Lenny Perata. We got Darryl up in the great Northeast and Lenny Perata in communist California, in the northern communist California. How's it going over there with your communism, Lenny?
Oh, it's getting more communistic as the days go.
Oh, praise Jesus.
I know.
That's always a good thing.
I love it where sin abounds.
Yeah, right? When sin abounds, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
We're a little cocky. We're a little racy. We're a little aggressively inappropriate and quite offensive to many, and we like it that way. I don't know any other way to do it. How to do this? Yesterday on the Exodus Ingathering, we talked about aggressive Jesus and how Jesus was an equal opportunity aggressor, and he was all about offending the religious spirit and the small-minded and all that, simply by preaching the gospel of the kingdom, because people don't necessarily like that. We talk about stuff on here that most people won't or don't want to talk about. Let me put it this way: we talk about things in a way most people wouldn't talk about it. But we have Passover coming up. What do you guys think about that? Remember last year? Last year was crazy. Israel was locked down in their own homes, probably for the first time since the original Exodus Passover in Egypt, somewhat 4,000 years ago. We had a plague of locusts crossing countries miles wide, and a virus that was supposedly going to kill everybody. The zombie apocalypse did not happen. We figured that if it was really that bad, homeless bodies would be all over the place, and drug addicts and strippers and all that. But we don't understand what's going on. We don't actually necessarily believe that what they're telling us is the truth. But remember that? That was crazy. That was a year ago already. It's I can't believe it's already Passover. What are you guys doing? It's Passover week. It's coming this weekend. What kind of plans do you guys have for Passover?
Well, we're doing a small Seder here. We're broadcasting it, so we'll be doing it Saturday night, 6:30 Eastern time.
Here on the Lamb Radio Network?
Yep.
There you go.
So
If you
we're
guys-
going to have small gathering, and just like we do every year. Last year was the first year in I don't know how many years that we didn't have anybody to do Passover with, even though we were living with a family. They didn't want anything to do with us.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that.
yeah.
You guys were sharing a house with somebody, and they didn't like you very much.
No, they didn't like anybody, but that's okay. So
Yeah.
I
That's
just
always
happen to, as you say, bring that out in people a little more than most. But so we did the entire broadcast from the basement, and then my family and I just gathered together, and we had a little dinner after the presentation. So we'll be doing the same thing this year. We'll run through it, and then we'll eat and make merry.
And didn't the people last year above you they put together like a temporary bowling lane or something, and they were bowling upstairs just to interrupt with the.
It sounded like it. No, it was just kids running back and forth.
That's funny. Hey, Lenny, what are you doing this Passover weekend?
Ours is even smaller, besides just getting on with my family, because they want to go over all the prophetic implications of what it means. Just me and Linda by ourselves. We have no friends up here. we're in the farther north reaches, and the closest person that even has the same values of Hebrew roots is up at the border of Oregon. So, and
Wow,
nobody. There's zip nada, and the ones that we have contacted, they're as goofy as you can imagine. They're Baptist Hebrew roots, and they don't follow the feast. So figure that one.
They're Baptist Hebrew roots, but don't follow the feasts.
Yeah.
Then they're not Hebrew roots.
Try telling them that.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I live in weirdo land, believe me.
Yeah, well, California has been weirdo land for a long, long time.
Yeah, well, unlike the majority of the people we know who have never lived in a communist country, I actually lived in Nicaragua for like 3 or 4 months. We had a church plant there, and I'm reminded of this because we were making fun of you and saying you lived in communist California and you have no friends, and we can all relate to not having friends. But I bring up Nicaragua because in our youth group, they actually sent you remember the Hitler Youth? Well, they had a Sandinista youth leader that would come to our youth groups and like sit in on the youth group, and he knew that we knew, and we knew that he knew that he was exactly who he was, and he had his little red star, pin. Maybe if you started wearing more red, you'd make more friends.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There is a demographic here. Everything north of the Bay Area sucks. I've always known that because the freedoms below that, that's where all the early Jesus movement came out of. But you know what? It stopped in San Francisco. It didn't go that far north, except what was the period of time right here in Fortuna that you were here?
I wasn't. I never lived there.
Outreach.
Oh, Gospel Outreach. Well, I only visited a couple times, like in 1970.
A run that was incredible, but it's over with here now.
Oh wow!
So it's kind of sad. I'm telling you, the demonic demographics up here are totally different than Southern.
Well, it's because you're so close to Oregon in the Northwest.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I'm thinking that's what's going on. No, yeah. I never lived up there. I did visit the Lighthouse Ranch.
Okay.
Yeah, so I visited the Lighthouse Ranch when my uncle was ordained an elder, and I visited the Lighthouse Ranch when his brother, my other uncle, was married, because he lived at the ranch and he married a girl at the ranch. And they met and lived at the ranch and got married at the ranch, right. The Lighthouse Ranch, and that was in Eureka, right?
Fortuna.
The Lighthouse Ranch. Technically, it was
right there in Fortuna. That's where the beautiful area. Yeah, and they had as much influence over the early Jesus movement, but they went to the nations. And what I was in back then in Shiloh, they all turned into Calvary chapels.
Right.
So that's where Shiloh came from. So incredibly influential. They had their runs and
right. So a traditional pastor, I think he might have been a Baptist, was shaving one morning and started speaking in tongues. That kind of wrecked his whole theology. And his name was Jim Durkin. And someone told him about a bunch of hippies that were living in a commune in an old lighthouse ranch that needed pastoring. So he showed up. The man showed up, and they embraced him. And he basically led this ragamuffin group of hippies to understanding, sound biblical understanding, because he was learning the charismatic aspect too, but he was able to give them a foundation because he was a traditional pastor, and that's how gospel outreach was started. And Jim and Daisy Durkin, they were the apostolic pastors. And after my uncle was ordained, I'm not sure when he was ordained, if it was 72 or 3. Anyway, in 76, they sent him to Guatemala with that because of that earthquake. And that was really how that launched them to the nations, because they had Geo in England. I remember Geo in England.
Yeah. I think they lasted up till about the 82 or 83, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, I know gospel outreach was, more than that, because I was in Guatemala. So gospel outreach lasted probably till about mid to late 80s.
80s.
Late 80s. They were still humming in 86.
I wonder if was the ranch still going then, though?
I don't know.
I know the state of California.
It wasn't. It was in the mid 80s. It was still working.
Yeah. Now it's just a beautiful prairie where they want to build. They can't, though. It's all historical stuff now. So.
So there's some Jesus movement history for you, at least mine and Lenny's, and our involvement. I was saved through my uncle's church, gospel outreach. That's the connection. Now, Joshua lives there.
Josh lives in Fortuna. Yeah.
Yeah, Joshua. If those of you from the Monday night, you'll remember he used to show up. He's got a couple special needs kids that he's had to go to meetings for them. That's why he's not showing up on Monday nights. But he's alive and well on Facebook.
Yeah, we communicate back and forth just on Facebook.
Well, I was asked if we were going to broadcast our Passover, and I opted not to because I wanted to take the night off and just I'm live seven. I'm live streaming 7 times a week, and so I just want to take it easy. I don't want to have to set up lights and microphones and cameras and all that jazz. I'm just going to take it easy and low key and not live broadcast. Well, that's not so we're not going to live broadcast our Passover, but our preliminary confirmation, our seat count for this Passover on Sunday night is about twice as many as I want to even deal with. So apparently we have some people coming on Sunday night, but I mean I'll be fine. It's just I was hoping for a low key, quiet evening. So I can drink 4 glasses of wine. We figure a Passover. Those of you that don't know, a Passover Seder is 1,000% traditional. Nothing scriptural about it whatsoever. It's all tradition. It's a glorified Shabbat, essentially, and that's where my 4 glasses of wine remark comes from. right, Darryl?
Yep, but it's a good tradition.
Make merry. It's a good tradition.
Well, but the traditions of the Seder, aside from the egg, we won't get into the egg.
We won't do we don't do the egg thing.
But the traditions of the Seder, it all has rich symbolism to kind of illustrate the story.
Agreed.
And when Christianity comes against, or especially the Torah movement comes against tradition, Paul said to the Corinthians, I commend you for adhering to the traditions that I gave you. There are things that Israel did in order to keep the commands of God that made that so that we would have a model to do it that were good. Where things get ugly is when traditions violate the commandments. And that's what Yeshua was saying. He was saying, by your traditions, you nullify the commandments of God. So you can technically keep the Passover by doing the Lord's table.
Mm-hmm.
But why not tell the story?
Did you say wine not?
Well, that too. But
Yeah.
we tell the story in order to make it a remembrance, because as we've just kind of been going through the whole Passover story in the previous few weeks with the parashot, it's an amazing time, and God says you're going to do this to remember this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I tell people all the time, if you want to do Lent, knock yourself out, but you better do the Omer count. Hey, you want to do Easter? Knock yourself out, but boy, you better do Passover. You want to do Christmas? Knock yourself out, but you better at least do Hanukkah. We know Jesus did. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you want to observe and celebrate these man-made Catholic religious constructs, you know what? Knock yourself out. Because they are Catholic. You're already deceived, evangelical Protestant, but you need to understand these are Catholic things that you're doing, Catholic rituals, Catholic-based rituals that you're doing. Go ahead. I don't care if you do them or not. What I care about is the fact that you're doing those instead of what the scriptures actually tell you to do, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that you probably shouldn't be doing them. Deuteronomy 12:29 says, "Don't take the ways of the nations and worship me with those things."
I'm trying to be gracious.
I understand, but
I'm trying to be a nice guy.
yeah, I was listening to Mike and Mary Lou Lake the last week. They were doing a podcast because they do it every Tuesday, and she's saying that you get into those things now. I'm talking about where we're at now. In history, and she says those are unleashing all kinds of things, and the more as God is really ramping things up. One of the benefits that COVID had last year is it shut down Easter celebrations,
I know, right?
sunrise services, and things like that, and so the enemy doesn't get to gain his power, because when people celebrate pagan things, it amps up the power of the enemy, and when they get shut down is when revival starts breaking out. So when believers forsake those things, it diminishes the influence that the kingdom of darkness has in society.
Yeah. Yeah. Nicely put. Lenny?
Yeah, it's interesting, since everything was shut down last year, and you either had to take the track of going back to what he says is celebrating his Passover and the intimacy that it caused. It unleashed something on the planet that I think's in line with what's going to be happening, but the cancel culture rose to a point where now they become the major power, and we know what's behind them. We know the whole thing with the media and everything, but it's like Rabbi just said, the reality of what's coming to the forefront now in all these pagan holidays is 10 times more demonic. And it's going to continue to get that way. But the thing is you're going to be able to see the line. And that's where I think where that revival is coming, where people they're starting to second guess and question the vis-a-vis just talking with my brother and family members down there. It's not the same. Nothing's the same in the holidays that they used to celebrate. And it's not just because things were shut down. People are getting an awareness of what's going on this planet. Unbelievable.
Speaking of.
Yes.
The government is supposed to, is it July 1st? The government is releasing a Department of Defense legal position on extraterrestrial life
in June. I thought that was coming sooner. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you, man, they announced twice last year that yes, extraterrestrial life does exist, and no one cared. I'm telling you, man, we've been so desensitized by what they're doing to us. But anyway, I find that a little interesting and fascinating, because everyone's always, everyone has suggested that I'm nuts because I believe what I believe, and gee, Allan might know what he's talking about something.
Well, you know what? It hit the Faulkner focus in the morning. In the afternoon, it hit the 5, and then it hit Tucker again. And it's been circulating every 2 or 3 days. They're going over it, bringing it up. I know that's just Fox, but It's going from morning, afternoon to evening. Where before you'd only see it on Tucker.
Yeah, well, they've got to say something before they come out. You know what I'm saying? The last thing they want to do is be holding the bag of it. It's like 9/11. When 9/11 hit, I said two things. Okay, either our government is in on this, or we're screwed because we can't defend ourselves. Right? Which one is it? Either way, it's bad. Same way, same thing. Do they really want to wait until we have this mass? What is that? Which Avengers movie was that when the whole world is exposed to the fact that there's extraterrestrials? Remember, and the spaceship shows up.
It's the first one. It was the first Avengers.
No, that
when
was,
he went up in the New York and he went through the.
Yeah, that's like the third or fourth one, I think. Either way,
when they were all together, that was the first one that they got together. After that, it came the Infinity Wars and Endgame. And,
right. It was before Infinity Wars, wasn't it? Yeah, it was before Infinity Wars.
Infinity Wars, then it was the Age of Ultron, and before that,
so it was
Avengers.
Am I thinking of Infinity Wars when they real?
No. The first one, when the guys came to New York and Iron Man saved their butts.
Right. Iron Man is hanging out with Doctor Strange or something.
That's just Avengers.
Oh.
No, when he was hanging out with Doctor Strange was the last two.
Okay, well, I'm talking about the one when they're hanging out with him and something's going on outside and there's this like spaceship hovering over Manhattan.
That was Infinity Wars.
Okay. That's what then. Okay. Well, it's probably not a good idea if our government waits for that before they admit that this is going on. Right? Darryl, what do you think?
Well, yesterday there was an interesting expose because they were talking about there's a tie-in. Remember, they go, look at the Book of Von Daniken. Remember that old one, the Chariots of the Gods, that started everything off maybe 40, 50 years ago?
Long time ago.
They said, there's more to it. These demagogues that were part of the Greek mythology. And I'm just sitting back and listening to these guys. They're getting it all perverted. I'm going, yeah, they were the fallen ones. They were the watchers.
Chariots of the Gods and the ancient astronaut theory.
Yep.
You gotta love it. Darryl, what did you think about all that?
I didn't watch the Avengers. I think I watched one Avengers movie when we were living with the family last year, and I thought, like, how do you sit through all of this and not see how utterly demonic all this stuff is? I mean, it's so blatant in the brainwashing, the propaganda. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's why I watch it. But it's true. It's absolutely true because that's how they do it. That's how they're feeding the masses regarding what's to come.
Well, you go back, how long ago was it? 20, 25 years ago, Independence Day with Will Smith. Same thing.
Yeah.
And then they defeat them by putting a little computer virus into
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to work.
Yeah. So I think the government might be having to. Well, I mean, the Catholic Church in the last how many years have released 2 papers basically saying if extraterrestrial life does exist, that doesn't mean God doesn't, and blah 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 blah
and
blah.
We're going to baptize them. And doesn't the Vatican actually has an ambassador for extraterrestrials? They have someone who actually has that position.
Yeah, what do they know that the general public doesn't?
They own a mountain in Arizona with a huge telescope that Tom Horn brought to light.
Yep, Lucifer.
That's it, the Luciferian telescope. That's you know what? It's not hidden either.
Nope.
Well, that's the thing is that they don't think they have to hide anything now.
Right.
Before occult means hidden. And it's always been underneath the surface, but now they think they've got it. Biden's in. They've got no opposition, so they can come right out and they can tell us whatever it is exactly they're going to do. When my wife came over here, so she grew up in Eastern Europe under communism, and she came to Canada when she was about 15. And she says, so when they got here, and after a few years, they started to kind of look around. It was like, they're doing the same crap here that they did over there. The only difference is over there, they told you that they were giving it to you. Yep. They told you that, you were getting the
shaft.
But here, I'm censoring myself out.
Can you, is that a bad word? That's not a bad word.
But
can you not say
here,
that? Oh.
Here, it's they all try to make it seem like they're doing good for you.
But they're doing us a favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they don't even kiss you first.
Is that like a
still
prostrate exam? Is that like a prostrate exam? Is that what we're doing? Are they giving us an enema or something? Oh, geez. Hey, you took us there. I was running with it.
But it's true. It's like she comes over here. It's like they're doing the same thing, except that they can't be quite as open about it. Justin Trudeau's supposed father, I mean, many people think it was Castro, but whatever. His Pierre Trudeau, who was Prime Minister of Canada from about 68 through to about 84. He started out as a communist. He was part of the Communist Party. And the only reason he went over to the Liberal Party is because it's the only way you could get elected. But I mean, this has been going on for a long time now. They've been pushing this agenda. When in 1963 in Congress, when they read the 45-point plan of the communist takeover of the United States, they read it in Congress. And if you look at that list, there are at least 27. Well, and I did that message, I think 3 or 4 years ago. So you're probably over 30 of the 45 points that have already been enacted in the United States now.
Yeah,
we got the oligarchs in California. They just
once you get past the halfway point, I mean, that's it. You're already past the point of no return.
Right. What were you saying, Lenny? Hey, Lenny, repeat what you were going to say while I go grab some coffee.
We have the oligarchs here in California. They just own vineyards.
Yeah.
they lived in big mansions, and they've been around a long time. They used to be called a different name, mafioso with privilege. So,
yeah. Listen, I lived on Palos Verdes when I lived in LA, and there were $20 million mansions.
Oh yeah, I know exactly where it's at.
I mean, I would go for walks at night. I was, living with in this little condo over there, but I'd go for walks at night, and you would walk past these estates. And my rabbi, who came, he was the one who planted the congregation I was looking after there. He says that all these places have altars in their backyards too. So this stuff's been going on for a long time. It's just now it's all out in the open. And I think what God is doing is that he's bringing it to the point where it's so obvious that when he does judge it, like this, if God is going to take back the United States, which a lot of people think he's going to do, there's just been way too many prayers and too much repentance that's gone on over this past year for God not to respond. But when he does, and the judgment comes upon the wicked, then they're going to know why. And everybody is going to know why. What was it? Wasn't it Jerry Nadler that just said that, the opinion of God is of no concern to this Congress?
Yeah. We talked about it when they happened. Yeah. Yeah. It was actually stronger than the word opinion, but yes.
Yeah. And Schumer said also, and Schumer's a Jew. I mean, so he's getting it twice. He said that your Christian prayers aren't going to stop the anti-God agenda. He said something along those lines. I don't know exactly what it was, but these people are they're so arrogant. They're just like, come and get it, boys.
And you know what? The Christians that voted those people in or that party in, oh man, they're in for a big surprise.
Well, you cannot cast your vote and not have judgment. There's a small party. It's called the Christian Heritage Party, and we're actually fellowshipping with one of the candidate here in our area. And so we had a prayer meeting with a few pastors, a bunch of believers last week, and I'd introduced her just so that everybody knew that there was actually a party that stood for life and that the unborn and whatnot. And she says, how can you expect God's blessing if there's blood on your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And when you vote for a party that supports abortion, there's blood on your hands. Now, it didn't matter who voted which way in this past election, as we saw, but the bottom line is that there's still a spiritual connection there. And if you're not going to do the right thing, irrespective of what the outcome is, then you've got to answer for that. And that's why it says not many should desire to be teachers. You can't just be a teacher and go out there and speak falsehood and go, oops, and then not expect that there to be consequences. God's going to hold us accountable.
Totally. You know, I do want to comment on one thing, because my processes are starting to, I think, really ask him what is happening, because I know a lot of people are praying for revival to save America. And I'm going, when's the last time they read Jeremiah? And they don't like that part when Jeremiah says, are you kidding me? This is what God's going to do. But it's also to bring us people to that point of that what they're crying out for revival is, come quickly, Lord Jesus. And there's a lot of people saying, no, come quickly, America. And he's trying to change the narrative in the hearts of the believers. So what does revival look like? What is it going to look like when he pours out his spirit? I have to say it's going to be a revival of them doing the kingdom work, but the outcomes that they're looking for it to continue the way it always has been, I just have my reservations about that one.
Well, there's people still out there that believe, they're self-quarantining still. It's like, wow. I literally know people that are still self-quarantined that haven't seen grandchildren, or it's just nuts, right?
We never stopped. We never stopped seeing our kids.
Yeah.
My parents in a year and a half.
Yeah, see, that's crazy. And then, then we talked about how those Canadian kids were being, like children were being self-quarantined in their own homes.
Yeah.
Right. We actually know somebody that did that to their child, and it's like, you're nuts. Anyway, my point is, I think I lost my thought. It was based on something you just said, Lenny.
It was just what revival is going to look like.
Well, it's more about the state of the people.
Yeah, they're are they crying out for America? Are they crying out, come quickly, Lord Jesus?
Yeah, no, I lost it. It's gone.
Well, let me bring this up. There's some highly prophetic things that are happening this week, and I don't think it's any coincidence, because Saudi Arabia came out and are having a real difficult time, and they are telling Jordan and Palestine that they better get their act together, because the two most holy places are in Saudi Arabia, and they don't consider Jerusalem worth anything. And they're saying, you better give Israel the right to go back on the mountain. And they're trying to kick it against the goads. And this is all part of the whole Ezekiel 38 transition right now to the allyship of Israel and these nations that are forming with them. And that's huge for Saudi Arabia to come out and say that, and saying, look, Jerusalem's a no big deal. It's not on the radar as far as holy places. And Saudis control that. They're the ones controlling it. And here you
get all the money.
Netanyahu, I know, with Netanyahu, we'll know more by the end of this week or after Passover, where he's going to really be at and everything, because he's fighting right now just to keep everything going. And a lot of people are saying, well, he's still our best bet.
Well,
because
speaking of
Israel, turn on him like that.
Right. Well, speaking of Israel, they're voting today.
Yep. Today is the day.
And I've been in contact with a friend of mine that lives in Jerusalem, and he's actually at the polling centers for that new party that's anti-vax, anti-green passport and all that. He sent me some messages while I was sleeping. I haven't actually listened to him yet, but I'm pretty sure it's an update to what's been going on there. I don't want to listen to him live though. So maybe I'll listen to him I'll check. I'll mute myself and listen to them, and then we can maybe talk about that. But Israel's going through some stuff right there. You know what I mean? I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah.
Darryl?
Well, there's a law firm in Israel that's planning to take. They are in the process of taking the Israeli government to court for violating the Nuremberg Code with these vaccinations, because they're saying that this is nothing but a medical experiment, and you idiots, this is what we escaped from 70 years ago, 75 years ago, and they're doing it again. Because this technology, the mRNA technology, has never been used on human beings on a mass scale before. We don't know what this is going to produce. And so they're taking them to court. And they said it's the government, it's leaders. I mean, they're going after everybody, because Israel has twice the vaccination rate of the next country in the lead. So they've got over 50% of the population that's been vaccinated already. And based on what I've been able to ascertain, the results are not good.
But you know what it's doing to them in the region, and put it this way: in the courts of heaven, it's not good. But what's being played out there too is their ability to homogenize with their whole region around them to keep their allies strong. Because remember, when the whole campaign of the Antichrist comes against Jerusalem and you have your allies with Israel, everybody goes, well, this is a good thing. Well, the good thing is that the Lord's coming back. But the reality is, he says, you're going a whore and you're not trusting in me. You're looking to your lovers to carry you and to keep you. Yeah. And we're seeing what's being played out right now, right before our eyes, with that acquiescence just to the thought of the day to say, you know what, let's keep our, what is the word I'm looking for, is just our compromise going before us so we can keep everybody happy, so we can be like the rest of the world, so we can have our place on this planet. And the Lord will eventually say, yeah, you're just a whoring after your lovers. So all this is being played out, and at a higher level than we can't even imagine. And you look at the Middle East, what Erdogan just did the other day, they were crashing financially. He took the reins, fired the guy, and says, nope. Because remember, they're the strongest nation over there right now. So there's a lot of things going on this globe. North Korea, they're watching Biden like a hawk. The Afghans are saying they're looking at Biden because Biden wants to go in full bore against. And then the Afghanis are saying, if he does, we're going to fight him. So there's just tension everywhere.
That guy has wreaked so much havoc in the last 2 months. I mean, how long has he been in? He's been in for maybe 2 months, right? I mean, look at the border.
He's screwed up so bad, and his own people know it. And he's just sitting there fumbling and dribbling on himself.
And falling up.
It was the wind.
What's that?
It was the wind.
It's just crazy because our border situation is like a town. What town is it? Just a town in Arizona just declared a state of emergency. Trump had we didn't have these problems the last 4 years.
Nope.
Well, this is what they've been fighting for. This is what Merkel did to Germany back in 2015. And you're still not hearing about all the damage that did. I mean, they would have rapes in the train stations publicly.
Yeah.
Knifings left, right, and center. No, God says, you want to do things without me, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah. And if you put in people that don't even forget about honor me, recognize me. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to vote in an administration or a party that is absolutely antichrist, you know what? The brownie's going to hit the whirly. You guys know what that means?
Yeah.
It's a New Zealand term for the shite's going to hit the fan. It's like it's like what does Proverbs say? It's like a man who eats fire and believes he doesn't get burned. It's like you're not going to get away with it.
Mm-mm.
Not even a little bit.
Nobody's getting away with anything anymore.
No.
And this is the problem that the church is having to reconcile, is that for decades it's been getting away with all kinds of stuff. And last March, God pulled the plug. No more.
Yeah.
Now we're going to start. We're going to start getting back to my way, or else.
Yeah.
And so when he said that judgment had begun in his house,
Yeah,
he's doing a house cleaning right now.
Yeah. So I have a question. I haven't proposed this question anywhere, so I'm gonna ask you two guys. In order for the people to vote the way they voted, they have to have a certain consciousness. They have to have a certain mind state, right? So in order for these people to vote the people they voted in order for them to do what they did, they have to have they have to think a certain way. Good, bad, or indifferent. We believe that their thought process is godless, simply for policies that are now in place. Then, on a global level, the globalists are trying to force everyone to get injected when there's literally no precedents for it at this stage and level. I mean, it's not like anything anyway, right? There's a reason for that. We're not quite sure what the reason is, but there's something nefarious regarding it. Is it time for those of faith that have a spirit of understanding regarding what's happening, not only in this country, but globally? Because this is going on around the world. Is it time for us to take a stronger position of, I'll use the word separation, and I'm not talking the type of separation that defines holiness, right? Come out from her, be separated, which means to be holy, sanctified, holy, and righteous. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking, is it time for those people of faith to physically cut these people off and have nothing to do with them? Now, see, biblically, New Testament, we're supposed to do that to people that claim Christianity that are literally not believers because of what they say and do. They'll contest it, they'll scream foul, and they'll say that you're being judgmental and unchristlike if you cut them off, because they literally still believe that they're believers when their actions don't define them as such. Right? We're supposed to do that to people that claim to be believers that aren't. And we're supposed to not do that with the world. Have we come to a point where we have to just say, you know what? Because you voted this way, because you believe these things, because you believe in this stuff, right? They tell you to trust the science, except when it comes to gender, right? It's that nonsense. And now, what do you guys think? Where are we?
Well, I don't know if we're, you know what?
Will we ever get to that place? Is that even an option?
That option's going to, you know what? Okay, here goes what I feel. We always are going to have to bring the disobedient back to the wisdom of righteousness. I don't think we'll ever stop, and we can't stop. When that does stop is when the two witnesses, when the last 3.5 years, the Great Tribulation starts. It's interesting because up to that point, we're supposed to contend, fight, and everything. The last 3.5 years, he goes, you better not pick up your sword or else you're going to die by it. That's a whole different subject and a deeper thought. But until that time, I think the whole abiding is doing the kingdom work and calling people out on the carpet. I don't think we're going to stop doing that. As far as the separation goes, if, like it says in 1 Corinthians 5, the very last verse, he goes, with the world, we're going to continually have to do that. If your brother does these things, have nothing to do with them.
Right.
I mean, that's very, very clear.
Yeah, I already do that.
And me too. But you know what? It's going to get even more pronounced. And to call them out on it, I mean, to call them out and saying, no, you're not believers. You can't do that. And let's face it, the left is going to get stronger than the truth. That's all I can say. I don't want to say the right. The left is going to get stronger than what the truth is. And it's going to cost us our heads, because in that day, your children will give you up and they'll say, we're doing God a favor. Remember, that hasn't happened yet. It is in the cancel culture, but it's going to get even more pronounced. But we cannot stop, I don't believe, calling the disobedient to the wisdom of righteousness.
So one more question, and then to you, Darryl. Lenny, what main sign are we looking for to determine that we are in the tribulation?
Well, the thing is everybody goes, well, it's got to be this peace treaty and everything else. And yes, it says he makes a treaty. Treaties have been in place. I don't think it's going to be that obvious. The only thing that's going to be obvious is what he said in Matthew 24:15. When that abomination which makes desolate, then he says, but that first 3.5 years, it's going to be sketchy. And, there's some things on the line right now that from Michael Rood that I'm really investigating, that I'm watching closely. He had some pretty interesting insight. I can't get onto it, what I'm seeing on that show right now, but it's all playing out in Israel right now. And it's behind the scenes. And of course, nobody's going to look at it. And it's not going to be a major player in all of our, unless we're listening, just like so many of the things going, where's the church of just what this happening? They're still trying to revive America. And I'm going, are you kidding me? God's dealing. He's spanking, baby. And he's putting everything in order for the world. And everybody's going, oh, no. Come on. And I'm going, it looks like it's, what's that thing that happens out in the Nevada desert every year that
Burning Man.
Yeah. Burning Man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, it's almost like they want a Burning Man fest. And I'm going, stop it. Look at your scriptures and look what it's talking about Yeshua. And they're not looking. And I agree with you. The Mescalim are raising up. Those that have wisdom are looking. And there's something about the Shemitah year next year.
Yeah.
And, we don't have a lot of wisdom on it. We can quote all around it and talk about the histories of it, but there's something about that and where everything is lining up globally that I'm just watching. Anyone who says they know right now are a bunch of, they're not intelligent. I almost said something really not rank, and I don't want to do that, but they're not intelligent, because we better watch, because we don't know everything that's on the line, but things are just being put in place. That's all I can say.
Thanks. Darryl, thoughts? Do you remember the question?
Whether we need to separate from them or not?
Are we supposed to be cutting these people off? And what does the tribulation look like? How do we know we're in the tribulation? Let's start with are we supposed to cut these? Are we supposed to cut these? We know we're supposed to cut the believers or people that claim to be believers. But what about the world? The world we're dealing with, the people we're dealing with out there.
Well, at some point in time, I think we've got to go into protective mode. And I think this is all led by the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. That he will guide and direct us, because I look at Revelation 10:7 that says that after the seventh trump, it says the mystery of God is finished. Well, what is the mystery of God? There's a number of different ways that we can interpret it, but 2 verses, Ephesians 3:6 and Colossians, I think it's 1:27, says that the mystery of God is Messiah and the Gentiles. So if you take that view of what the mystery of God is, then Revelation 10:7 says that at the seventh trumpet, which is right around, it looks like the halfway point of the tribulation period, right before the abomination of desolation, the mystery of God or Messiah and the Gentile finishes in that no more Gentiles get saved after that. It's done. Then God.
Oh yeah. The
And
fulfillment
God,
of the Gentiles. Yeah.
Yeah, and so God then, the fullness of the Gentiles in Romans 11 is Gentile iniquity. That has nothing to do with Gentile salvation.
Okay.
That is, you look at the context of Romans 11, and that whole, the bottom line number is what it says. The fullness or the bottom line. It's an accounting term. And nowhere in that whole section of scripture is Paul talking about salvation. He's talking about Gentile iniquity. He's talking about arrogance. He's talking about coming against, the Jewish people and everything else. And all of a sudden we get this thing about Gentile salvation. No, it's the fullness of the Gentiles is the times of the Gentiles. It's when they stampede over Israel.
Exactly.
So, and you go back to Isaiah 10:20 about that, and it says, no longer will they, just what you were talking about, Lenny, no longer will they rely on those who oppress them, but they'll rely on me. So if you look at the midway point where that might be the time of the harpazo, the rapture, we don't know, but I tend to more that view. There's a lot of people in the Torah community saying, oh, the market, just yesterday on one of these groups, oh, the vaccine can't be the mark of the beast because we're not going to be here. Okay.
Dude, I don't even waste my time with those groups. I can't.
Yeah.
It's like a
Right.
They still haven't figured out when the last Trump is. When is the last Trump?
He got kicked out of office on January 20th. Anyway, this whole thing about, at the halfway point where the fullness of the Gentiles, the salvation is cut off of the Gentiles and God turns his attention toward the Jewish people. So
Right.
for 3.5 years, you've got the Great Tribulation, you've got the Noahide laws that have been in place, and the Orthodox Jewish community is going to be participating in the beheading of people who blaspheme. People don't know that. Everybody thinks the Noahide laws are a good thing.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
No, they don't. And George Bush Sr. actually enacted that within the U.S. It's not the Constitution, but in 1991. So the United States actually functions on the Noahide laws now, not the Ten Commandments. And is it time, or is there a time coming where we have to literally have nothing to do with these people? Well, I think that before the 3.5 year mark, and we'll know when we're there. I think it's going to be clear to us. There's the peace treaty, but there's going to be the man of perdition is going to have to be revealed.
Mm-hmm.
So one question I actually have back to you, the war of Gog and Magog, is that, like most people interpret the Battle of Armageddon at the end of the tribulation period, or is that leading up to the 7-year tribulation? Does that happen before the 7-year tribulation period, when the son of perdition comes on the scene and brings peace between Israel and her neighbors?
I tend to believe that you have a homogenization of Magog, Armageddon, and all that within that time period. If you look at it close, we've always tried to separate those things out, and this happened 7 years before, and this happens this. There is no biblical basis for that. When you look at Ezekiel, when you look at Zechariah, you look at Revelation, what they need to look at is the feast days, and is the actual 10-day period between atonement and the Feast of Trumpets, a period where they always say, well, Jesus arrives on the Mount of Olives. No, he doesn't. He arrives in Sinai, and he has a procession all the way from Sinai up to Jerusalem. And during that time, he's doing all his battle. There's so much that we've been taught, the whole Gog Magog that has more to do with Turkey and the Mesopotamian area has nothing to do with Russia. And we were taught that in the old days because Hal Lindsey was trying to say, well, look at the etymology of it. It has nothing to do with it. He can't even prove that. You have to stay within the context of scriptures. So when they're looking at all these battles, when they're happening, and then you figure Yeshua is coming at a time to rescue him after he's letting him, it says that he prospers against the saints for that 3.5 years until, and you're right, you're exactly right. The time of the Gentiles is the rise of the Antichrist. He completes it, the fullness of iniquity, the fullness of the Amalekites, all that stuff comes to play. So I don't believe we're going to see war 7 years before. It just doesn't fit. Look at all the misnomers we taught. 1 Corinthians, Paul knew Daniel backwards and forwards. He was quoting Daniel chapter 7 and Daniel chapter 10 when he's and we've always misunderstood it when he says, "He that will let until he's taken out of the way." Oh, the Holy Spirit's going to be taken out of the way. The church is going to be taken out of the way. Where they get that, they better go back to the beginning. They better look at the two seeds that were in the garden. Brad Scott was brilliant on this one. And at the very end, what you're saying is that he which is going to be taken out of the way is after Satan comes in bodily to the Antichrist, and the Lord then removes him. Then the wicked one shall be revealed. Satan's going to be kicked out of heaven. He's going to enter the Antichrist, and then the mystery of iniquity all comes about. And the terminologies, we've westernized them, and you have to go back to the scriptures, like the same thing. Well, the third temple has to be rebuilt because he sits in the temple of God. It's the nous. It's not the temple. It's a sanctuary. It's the holy place. The altar has to be rebuilt, but it doesn't say the third temple has to be rebuilt. We've interjected that because we haven't looked at the text. And there's just a lot of things we're unlearning today to learn what it's going to look like, and it's going to be far different than we thought.
So
and the church better hold on tight, because this is a strong delusion tucked in with the aliens coming on us. Give me a break. There's going to be spies all over the place.
So as far as cutting ourselves off completely, I don't think the time is for that yet. But I do think we have to be a lot more discerning as to who we can't be just as out there as we always have been. We now have to be in a more defensive and more, I think, a more discerning mode as to who we talk to and when and what we share with them.
That's right.
Again, as the enemy grows in power, more and more discernment is going to be needed as to, when we shut up and when we move forward. But I don't think we need to completely become, fugitives yet.
Remember the saints during the tribulation, when all those things is happening to Jerusalem? It says they love not their lives even unto death. How do you get away with that one if we're supposed to shut up? I don't think so, because we're keeping the testimony of Jesus, which is a spirit of prophecy, still going on during that time.
Yeah.
And we're covered by his blood, and we're not loving our lives to death. We're keeping his commandments. It never stops.
Yeah.
I'm
thinking about what that passage, that verse in the New Testament that says, you need to work your butt off while it's still day.
You got that right.
Because night's coming where you won't be able to work.
Right. Yeah. And that's a hard one. He doesn't leave us with the answer there. He just says, you better just do it. We're looking for when we start and stop. He ain't telling us.
Yeah. You work your buns off until the night comes, because there is a time coming where you will not be able to work.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. I think we're all just going to be beamed up by an alien spacecraft.
I've been waiting for the mothership for a long time.
Right?
I see the chariot wheels are coming.
Sound effects and everything. Oh my gosh.
Bob Hall, you're on that thing with Ron Wyatt. You're hitting it. Something to look at.
It's interesting. Yeah, I'm hopefully, Michael Rood, his health gets back. I'd love to get back on his show. I got to leverage that show to get on Sid Roth. That's my goal. Got to get on Sid Roth's show.
Sid Roth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's supernatural.
Yep. But I want to play myself in the reenactment. I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh! But no, I need to get on Sid Roth's show.
Hey, I'm going to make a plug for my Daniel series, Allan. Just that
Sure.
people can watch it on the Branch of Forerunner Ministry on YouTube. And let me just tell you, it was rough going in the beginning, but it's getting a lot smoother now. Just learning how to use Zoom, baby. But it's getting a lot smoother. We're heading into Daniel chapter 9, and in about 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to bring on Allan to teach on Gen 6 and the whole thing with the principalities and Gabriel. You know, Gabriel showed up, 8, 9 times to Daniel? And then he talks about the Prince of Persia. And oh my gosh, there's a whole cosmic thing going on right now we don't even know of.
Yeah, the Prince of Persia. And then it says the Prince of Greece is coming.
Yep. And you know, it's interesting. The word for Greece there is Yavon, and it's not really Greece. It's that whole Mesopotamia area of Turkey and Greece, of what it was known back then. It was never known by Greece's then. Same thing with Alexander and his myriad of generals that were just a compilation of just what formed the Ottoman Empire, and people don't realize that.
What's fascinating about all that, though, is that principalities replace each other. It's not like there's one that's solidly in and has that territory and doesn't move. So they're actually in competition with each other.
You know, here's the thing. Have you ever wondered about, are any of those guys good? Because remember, there's sheep nations and goat nations. And in, Deuteronomy 32, he gave them the nations, but he kept Israel for himself. And that was the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, not Israel, like most translations have it. So what do you do with that one? Some of them, it's just a thought. I know it really rakes people over the coals, because in Christianity, every time we hear a principality, we go, it's evil. Yeah, we wrestle against principalities and powers, but is there any of them that stayed loyal? Do we know that?
Well, we don't know when the fall of the immortals happened. Did they all fall at once? Has it been an ongoing process? Are more still going to fall?
Yeah. Or are there any that retained it that he put in charge over the nations? Those are kind of questions that nobody's ever thought about. I'm just saying. I don't know. That's why it's interesting how many people are definitive on it. I'm going, really? Ring the bell, baby. Ring the bell.
Oh my gosh. I was a little late on that. I wanted to hit that when you were going, just saying. I'm just saying. Ring. You just need a little wand. Wing. Little Tinkerbell wand. So we were asked a couple questions. Tim just asked one. We were asked one way back. Allan, what can we do to get ready?
That's a loaded one. That's what you're doing on Monday nights, huh?
Yeah. And then, Marie, I'm going to say, what can we do to get ready? That's what this stuff has been preparing us for. So all of last year and then what we're doing right now. I really think, because this is discipleship. This is like breaking stuff down. How do you apply what we're talking about to your daily life? That's what, so I think that's a good place there. And then Tim is asking for a good resource to learn more about principalities. I don't know one right now that I would trust. Maybe what you would call it. It looks like
Robert Heidler.
There you go. We
The Kingdom Priesthood by Michael Lake.
Okay.
And Michael Heiser.
Michael Heiser. He has one on demons and
Dutch Sheet's brother has one on angels.
Yes.
That's relatively new that I haven't had a chance to actually read. But what I did read, I was like, oh, okay. Because we got to remember, angels are ministering spirits we're supposed to be able to work with. We're supposed to be able to tag team with them regarding things. And we don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. And I think it was about 3 years ago. Yeah.
Remember my friend Herman?
I'm still trying to read that one. I that's an important one, I think, too.
It's real important.
Yeah.
We all know Herman, don't we?
It's called Herman.
And this one too, by Michael Heiser, Demons.
And so yeah, I know. Like I think it was about 3 years ago. Chuck Pierce encouraged me to. Well, he unleashed like angels for us here in Utah. I really feel that, and I think I've mentioned this before. I really need to get a grasp on this angel stuff that I don't have a grasp on it, as far as working with, how to dispatch, or work in tandem with. I'm saying, tag team with. I think we need to figure that out. You're welcome. All right, 9 minutes. 9 minutes. 9 minutes. So, do any of you have a sense on what might be going on prophetically for Passover this year? Because man, it's quiet out there. It's really stinking quiet out there. Unless you guys have heard something that I haven't heard, and that's I'm not saying I'm the end all when it comes to this stuff, obviously.
I think we just need to focus on getting ready for Passover. I don't think it's all that complicated. God will. He'll let us know when it's time to do something.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying, Darryl, is we need to beat the Passover rush and go to the liquor store today.
Yes, exactly. Get that Mogan David wine. I'm telling you.
The big one, the big honking one, the one that takes
a whole case that my family sent up to me from Paso Robles. Unbelievable Fratelli Perata vineyards. Oh, the best. Lots of wine. I
think I'm going to go to the store today because I'm out. There's a new Scotch that I discovered that I really like that is gone. I got to replenish, but I want to get some port. I'm out of port too.
So how are you going to put the Scotch in Elijah cup?
I'm not going to put Scotch in Elijah's cup. That's for me. I'm not even going to share my port with him. He's going to get that cheap kosher wine. He's going to get the Manischewitz.
Mogan David.
Oh man, isn't Manischewitz worse than Mogan David?
Or at least better than Boone's Farm?
Liquid sugar.
Hey, you know what? I'm just those what are those little box drinks?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right, they're like this big.
The Tetra Packs.
No, they're like fruit drinks for kids.
Yeah,
fun in a box. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get a little box wine like that, and just put it on his plate
with the straw.
With a straw. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! There's somebody out there thinking we're being blasphemous right now.
They're all in the Torah.
Talking about Elijah.
They're all in the Torah community, hanging out on Facebook.
Oh my god! I don't know why you bother with them. Did I just say that out
loud? For the most part, I don't.
I would grab my head like you are, but it would ruin my hairdo. And it's like, yeah, a juicy cup. One of those. Yeah, we're gonna a little box wine, juicy box for Elijah. Dude, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna take a picture and post it for you guys.
All right, and then we'll watch the comments just start coming in.
Yeah, right. What's that? Oh, that's Elijah's plate. This little box of wine.
You know why?
But it's full of scotch.
Because we know he's not coming back this year.
He can't. We're like in the year. We're at the end of the 7-year cycle.
Right. Shemitah.
Oh yeah, maybe he could. He could come back this year. He's not going to come on year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wouldn't it be like year 1 or 7? Probably more like year 7. And well, first of all, we don't know if we're in the right cycle, but this is the 7th year cycle because the Shemitah is next fall. We got to deal with that. We got to teach these people that. So we haven't done this show with a Shemitah year. So it'll be the first time this show will be live during a Shemitah year. So we have to teach these people about the Shemitah year. And what they don't understand, what's really difficult for most people is there's like a 2 to 3 year overlap of stuff that's planted that you have to wait. It's a rough one. Perennials, no problem. Everything else, you think this new moon thing's hard. Oh man, that Shemitah year will kick your butt. Yeah, that's true. Look at this is Tim. Why do you have to be so logical about it? You guys see what he said, or is it fitting in with the topic today? Consider that all were delivered from the destroying angel and slavery, but how many reached the promised land? Yeah,
Nobody over 20.
yeah.
And it wasn't even 40 years. It was 38 years that God wiped them all out.
You don't want to be wiped out by God like that.
No, because they dropped like popcorn in the desert.
Well, I love the complete Jewish Bible. Bodies were strewn throughout the desert. Dang, that's a harsh translation for that verse.
Yeah.
Bodies were strewn throughout the desert. That's like freaking drive-by, right? A Holy Ghost drive-by for like 38 years. He's on constant.
Like a John Wayne movie.
Oh man, that's not funny. I'm sorry, because those were lives that were killed.
Brought it on themselves. I mean, if you're going to do this to God, it's not going to go well.
That's when you stand back and you go,
"Where's the lightning?"
Stand away from him. Yeah, get away from that guy.
After
Well, it's like Moses tells the children of Israel. He tells the assembly, "Step away from their tents. Step away from them," and all. And they're standing out, and these guys are standing outside of their tent doors, holding their little kids in their arms, looking at what's going on. And everyone's backing away, and then
sensors in hand.
Oh my gosh!
You came before God with that?
Dude,
Jerry Nadler said,
what are they
it's
thinking?
of no concern to this Congress. And I could just see God's eyebrow going up. Really?
Yeah. It's just fear God.
Depart from evil.
Keep his commandments.
Man, oh man. So there's a reckoning that's coming.
Yeah.
And all I know is when we celebrate our Seder and we take that the third cup, the cup of redemption, which is the Lord's table, I know that we're under the blood. So whatever happens out there, it's going to happen.
You know, and people go, Allan, you've created an echo chamber for yourself on Facebook. Yeah, it's because none of you are going to be there when I go out there anyway. You know, it's like heaven's an echo chamber or whatever. You know, at the afterlife, when the afterlife, not after death. The afterlife is an echo chamber. Well, so is that after death. I have no problem with that echo chamber. Mike, trying to get as many of you guys to join this echo chamber before it's too late.
Because in hell, it's going to be an echo chamber too, and you're the only one going to be screaming that you can hear.
So terrible.
There's a lake of fire. It's all black, and you are the only one you can hear.
So who are the lucky ones that get to be underneath the throne room? That's screwed up too.
That's so scary.
Oh my gosh. The lake of fire was made for the devil and his angels. And it says liars. Yikes.
It's 9 o'clock.
We made it to the top of the hour?
Yeah, I was hoping I could have pushed this button with that. That would be a nice ending. The lake of fire is made for the devil and his angels and liars. Yikes.
You're listening to Chameleon Church.
I had to do that. So sorry.
You're listening to Chameleon Church. Biblical Antidotes for the Modern Man. With your host, Allan Aguirre.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.